Okay, what is the first thing we do when we do instrumental drawing? We align our page to the T-square. And here we go, it's aligned to these two guys here. Now with a sharp 2H pencil, we're going to do our first line connecting these starting points for the orthographic camera, and we go all the way across the page. Again, for the starting point here, we're going all the way across the page. And then we've got these starting points, we want to do the vertical ones. So with these, they should join up, keeping your set square on the T-square all the way up the page. Again, from this starting point here, T-square resting on the set-square resting on the T-square, T-square plugged into the drawing board all the way up the page. So, what is the second thing we do when we do instrumental drawing? We write our name, which we forgot to do, so we're writing our name down here. I am Mr. McEwing, and we are doing instrumental drawing and producing an orthographic projection of this camera here. What is the third thing we do when we do instrumental drawing? Read the instructions. So we are drawing 3 orthographic views of the camera using the given starting points, which we've already done. Okay, so these here, 2 horizontal lines. Our main elevation is going to go here. Our plan view is going to go here, and our side elevation is going to go here. So let's do the crates now. So we want the full height, which turns out to be 80 plus 20. And so going from the bottom, we might as well make a mark on 80. Look over the ruler very closely. Make a mark half the size of an ant's head, and a mark half the size of an ant's head. And through that mark, that's 80 millimeters above the first line. And through this mark, that's 20 millimeters above that. We have the height, or the full height of our camera. And let's do the full length of the camera, which, as you can see here, is 120. On a scale of 1 to 1, that's 120 millimeters. So 120 across from here. So I'm putting the 120 through this left-hand line of the main elevation, put a little mark on 0, and with the T-square, set square resting on the T-square plugged into the board. A line all the way down or up the page. I am, of course, using a 0.1 pen just so that you can see the lines, but you should be using a sharp 2H pencil, no other. Okay, so we've got the crate for the main elevation. Let's do the crate for the side elevation, which, as we could see here, is 40 long, but be careful, we've got the lens here as well, which is 40 as well. So the body of the camera is 40 and the lens of the camera is 40. So we begin from the side, 40 millimeters, going this way. So I'm going from 80 to 40 and 40 to 0. That's a total of 80 divided by 2, 40 and 80. And we're going to take these marks all the way up the page. They are projected up. Now let's do our tricky orthographic trick here. this line up here on the right handmost side of the elevation and the bottom of the plan converge right there. So this is where our 45-degree line is going to go, like so. And I'm just going to do it a little bit beyond that convergence, because it's right here, from there to there, gives us our the position of our reference line or turning plane line. A turning plane line, I'm going to do it with my thick pen, just so that you can see. You could do this afterwards. Just make sure you don't forget. This is a turning plane line, the line where the planes turn, and it is a long, short, short, long, short, short. Try to keep all the shorts in equidistance and the longs in equal distance, and all the gaps in between equal distance. That is our turning plane line. So this line here, for these lines for our elevation, comes up, they hit the 45-degree line, and when they do, they turn around and are projected across the page. So now we have the crate for our main elevation, the crate for our side elevation, and the crate for our plan view. And now we're entering the next stage of our drawing, which is the details inside the crate. So we're going to start with the view with the most detail, and I think that would be the main elevation. So here we've got the top where we've got this sort of a flat plane, diagonal plane, flat plane, diagonal plane, flat. That sort of mountain ridge here for the reflex lens of the camera. And that tells us the first mark is 30 in, and then another 10, and then another 30, and then another 10. So shifting the ruler across, there should be 40 millimeters left. A little bit inaccurate there. That's better. Okay, so through those marks, they deserve to come right up the page here. And so in the plan, now we can see where the ridge comes up, across, down, and across. So this is one of those rare times where the set square is going to come off the T-square. So we've got our ridge of 30. You'll notice that this is not resting on the T-square. This angle here is just going from this part to this part. That across that rectangle there. And then it goes across. Here's the flat part on the top. Again, the set square is not resting on the T-square. That's very strange to make that line there. And so it's all measured lines. And so that is that front detail, and it's starting to project it over there. It's also already projected over here. Now let's do the lens. The lens is here. So we need a compass with a diameter of 66 here, diameter of 60 there, and we need to find the center. So the center is given to us here by this measurement there, which is 40, down from the top. And where is it going this way? I believe it's going from the center of this ridge here. That is a center line, being long, short, long, short. That's a center line. So it looks like this plane is divided into two. So that tells us how far along that is. So we go back to our full page. We want halfway in between this flat ridge here, which is halfway of 30 is 15. Put the smallest dot of an ant's head, and I'm going to draw this line here, because this line will be a center line in orthographic. Every circle needs to be produced with a center line. So this line will come down here, and we want 40 down from here. So that right there is the center of our lens. For this next part, we'll need a compass. So we've got the measurements of 60 and 66. Those are, that symbol that you'll see on your page is the symbol for a diameter. So a diameter is all the way across from one side of the circle to the other. So we want to measure the radius, which is half of 60, be 30. So with a radius of 30, holding your compass at the top, a nice circle going around there. And the radius for a 66 diameter circle will be 33. So with the pin point on the 0 and the pencil point on the 33 mark, I want to place that around there. I'm going to try to do these a little. I'm going to press a little hard with the pencil so that you can see that line and I don't have to do it in pen. Oop. Just jumped a little bit there. I'll just use this eraser. Get that line. Alright, so we'll need a center line to indicate that this is indeed a symmetrical circle. Try to keep these center lines symmetrical. And once again, if you were being really fastidious, you would measure these lines. But I've just taken to estimating them and trying to get them right. The center line. Alright, now the edges of the circle, of the lens, we need to do as well. So this is a simplified version of a camera body. It's got a nice big lens on this camera. So we're going from the edge of the circumference of this lens. That line comes up. This line comes up here. There we go. And I believe that's all of our guidelines so far. You'll recall that guidelines are light as can be, so light you can barely see. We're now about to bring this drawing all together by doing the presentation lines. Presentation line, as you might recall, is black, bold, and beautiful. So with your sharp 2H pencil pressing hard, you will be producing these black, bold, and beautiful lines. I'm going to do all the horizontal lines first. And you'll notice that the T-square is not going back and forward, so I'm creating fudgy marks with my pencil or smear marks with my pen, as the case may be. I'll see a line here. And now I shall do all the vertical lines, going over my guidelines with a sharp 2H pencil, black, bold, and beautiful. You don't want to make mistakes for these presentation lines because they will be hard to rub out. So that's why we do them over guidelines. And you can see our elevation is now complete. And we're going to do the plan and the elevation together at once. You'll notice the set square is going this way, so if it was this way, it would smear. The line would smear. So we're going like that. Here we got our line. You'll notice a point in the elevation is perpendicular or turns around to a line. So when a line is perpendicular to the turning plane line, it becomes a point. And this line here is this point here of the circle of that lens. I forgot to do this line here. Edge of the lens, edge of the body, edge of the body. Got to do these ones as well. Now in orthographic, we don't just see with our normal human eyes, we see with our superhuman X-ray vision, and we've got to think, where is the hidden lines? Are there any hidden lines or planes that turn out of view? And in this case, we don't have any, unless the edge of this lens is inset, which we're not doing. So this orthographic drawing now is complete. What remains is to add all the necessary orthographic information, including the correct reference line, which we have, between the views, to label the planes and the views. So to label the planes and the views, we shall need to place the guidelines, 5mm guidelines, and I'm placing this well away from the view, centralized at the bottom, out of the way, not in the middle of the drawing, but on the outside of the drawing. Again, 20mm up here, which you may not be able to see. Go to this view. Can you see that? Maybe not. But just with guidelines, making 5mm lines, and here we're going to write the name of this view, which is plan. Plan up here, which you cannot see, it's just out of frame. A nice capital graphics letters. Down here, the name of this view is main elevation. Again, nice capital graphics letters. Letters touching the top of the line, letters touching the bottom of the line. Straight up and down letters. Give attention to the gaps between the letters, make sure they're nice and even. Elevation. And this is the end elevation, or we might call it the left hand elevation. To label the axis, we need 3mm guidelines, and we place them in the center here. So I'm going to go 2mm below this line, and then 1, 2, 3. 2mm above that line, then 1, 2, 3. That's my guidelines. So this is the horizontal plane. That's what HP stands for. This is a vertical plane, VP1, and the second vertical plane, VP2. If we had a right hand elevation, that would be VP1. Next, does it say add 2 major dimensions to each view? So we'll do that now, adding 2 major dimensions. When we add dimensions, we want them to be on the outside, so this looks like a good place to put some dimensions. Over here looks like a good place to put dimensions. We shall put dimensions well away. So first, let's do some extension lines. Technically, we don't want our extension lines to be touching the object, but our guidelines have already touched the object. So if you had time with a pencil, you would just come in and rub out the millimeter between where the guideline and the extension line touched. Okay, this extension line. Okay, so I've got 30mm on this side. So I'm going to put a dimension line here for the lens and the body, and here for the height and the body of the camera there. Do that now. Yes, you can see that there. This should be in line. The extension line actually just go beyond 3 millimeters beyond this dimension line, which is there but not here. And the arrowhead should be at a ratio of 3 and 1. 3 millimeters long and 1 millimeter wide. They should be touching the extension line. Okay, that's 2 major dimensions on that view. 3 millimeters long, 1 millimeter wide at the base. So we've got the body, and that this, I don't think we need to do dimensions on this side, since we only do dimensions once. What we can do is a dimension for this line. It should go that from the center leader lines there, and so the numbers, or the dimension numbers, need to be placed within 3 millimeter guidelines, 1 millimeter above the edges. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3. And here will be diameter 60. Here is diameter 66. Now when you put dimension lines in on verticals, between 3 millimeter guidelines, centered within the dimension, and left ear down, so that they go on the top. If you pull your left ear down, you'll be looking that way, and therefore your dimension will be written this way. So this right there is 80. Right there is 20. Here we've got 40. And here we've got 40. So this covers it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Of course there's more dimensions that we could add here, but that is how we do this exercise. And we are complete.